And welcome, everybody, to Geeking Poetic Podcast channel. I'm your host, Larry Roberts. This specimen of the living force over here, to my right, is none other than
Megan Guess.
And what are we here to talk about?
Ahsoka episode 7. We're almost to the end, guys.
Yeah.
What's this one called? Dreams and Madness?
Yeah.
I think. Yep.
Dreams and Madness is the name of part 7. It's been quite a ride. This was the penultimate episode. We've only got one more after this, which is hard to believe that we're already at the end of this.
Seriously.
And there's a lot to consider here. There's a lot of story yet to come with only one more episode. Now, I know we talked about it in the last episode that they did confirm there is a season 2, but wow.
And supposedly a movie in the works.
Movies,
so,
yeah, in the works.
So I don't think it's all going to wrap up in a nice little bow. We're going to have nice little cliffhangers.
Yeah, I don't know how nice it's going to be, but we are going to have cliffhangers. I think that goes without saying. So before we get into this any further, we just want to say thank you so much to everybody that's been watching and listening to our show. All the comments, that's been great. We love the feedback, the subscribes, the likes, the shares, all that. It really means so much to us. So if you could hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, definitely leave comments and let us know not only what you think about our show, but Ahsoka in general. Yeah. We've had some good feedback from people on things and a lot of interesting stuff that we'll delve into later in terms of theories and stuff going on for the future of Ahsoka. But also, speaking of getting into the future and all that kind of thing, we need to warn everybody, if you haven't watched the show and you're not up to speed, we have spoilers.
Full of spoilers.
Lots of spoilers. So definitely turn this off if you have not watched the most recent episodes of Ahsoka, because we're going to spoil it all for you, because we have to. We got to get into it, right?
Yes, I'm dying to talk about it. So pause it. Come back later once you watch it.
Right. Okay, everybody good? All right, here we go. So again, I want to just ask a question like I always do at the start. Your overall impression, what did you think of part 7, Dreams and Madness?
I think I liked it overall.
You liked it overall? Okay. That seemed a little uncertain.
Well, I really enjoyed Thrawn.
Right.
Being Thrawn, which we'll talk about.
Right.
There was some things which we'll get into that I wasn't thrilled about, so.
Right. Well, we usually do that anyway. At the end of our recap part of the show, we will get into what we deem to be the highlights and the lowlights. We'll, highlighting specific things that we thought stood out, both good and bad. And then we'll wrap things up with all our theories, all our theory talk. Ooh. But what I want to do is, as always, I want to do a recap. I'm going to try to keep this as brief as possible without leaving out too much stuff, because I figure most of you, hopefully, if you listen to us, what we said earlier about spoilers, you know what happened in the episode. So just for the sake of things, we're going to recap real quick. So should I get into it?
Yep.
All right, here we go. So the episode starts with Hera Syndulla in the middle of a courtroom on Coruscant. She is at a hearing for a possible court-martial based on that whole thing she'd pulled.
Yeah, things are not looking good.
No, a couple episodes ago, where she took a squadron to go after Morgan Elsbeth and try to intercept the Eye of Sion before they went into hyperspace. So that didn't go the way they had hoped. So now in this courtroom, the senators are all there. Well, most of them anyway. And Mon Mothma seems to be the only one who is actually on the side of Hera and her, companions and stuff. There's one senator, Senator Ziono, is that his name?
Yeah, asshole.
Yeah, he's a jerk.
Has been since the beginning.
Yeah, he has. He's being extremely negative, and he's not at all seeming like he's being shady or anything like that.
No,
I don't think he's not trying to hide anything, right? You don't think he's a bad guy, do you?
If he's not, he's just an asshole.
Yeah, well, I think he's both personally.
Yeah.
But anyway, Mothma asks him if they can all agree that at the very least there was some kind of incident that happened on Seatos, but he dismisses Hera's report as a fairy tale, expressing extreme disbelief at any of the notions of Jedi or false Jedi and star maps and Purgle and distant galaxies. He doesn't believe any of that. Now, given that none of those things that he listed are weird or unusual at all.
Right? It wasn't already like established that Ezra disappeared on the Purgle?
Right. I mean,
with Thrawn? Was the whole reason he's not there in the first place? How is this fairy tale?
Right. I mean, it's one thing if he doesn't want to believe that they're alive or anything like that. But
they encountered them in this instance.
But the way he's acting about it, where he's like, Purgle and star maps and Thrawn and blah, blah, like, oh, these are all
real threats.
These are fairy tales. I'm going, fairy tales? Dude, these were things that happened in your universe, like...
in your lifetime.
Right, like within the last decade.
Yeah.
So I'm not... I don't know. I think that's really weird. I don't know how I feel about that whole thing. But anyway, it just seems extra ludicrous to me that this guy's acting like it's just so far-fetched. And I don't know. Maybe he's not in league with the enemy. And maybe this is just another one of those red herrings.
Yes.
They're trying to make
I
us...
think it is.
There's
too much to wrap up still for him to be an issue right now.
I don't know. But right now, I bet that he's on the dark side. But
okay.
That's just my take on it.
All right.
Anyway, so thankfully at the last moment, none other than C-3PO, old Goldenrod himself, shows up at the hearing with a message from Senator Leia Organa, saying that, no, I'm the one that approved this whole mission for Hera, and so you should let Hera go. Furthermore, I'm a senator too, and I'm a part of all this, and I was never notified by Senator Butthole over there that any of this was going on. So
to know that I was going against his votes,
right? Exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And he real quick, you see the look on his face.
Shut his dumb face up.
That he's just like, yeah, I can't really say anything about it. So it causes him to back down. Hera gets let off the hook. Mos Mothma's relieved for Hera, but she knows this was all a trick, and everything, which Hera kind of acknowledges. She's like, well,
eventually.
Eventually she approved my mission, But Mothma's main concern is whether or not what Hera is warning them about Thrawn and all this stuff, whether or not this is, like, legitimate. And Hera...
We really need to be worried about this.
Right, and Hera assures her that it's like,
we need to be prepared.
Right, exactly. So, meanwhile, Ahsoka and Huyang are still traveling in the mouth of the Purgle whale, and they're in hyperspace. And we get to see a really cool sequence of Ahsoka doing Jedi training, along with old Anakin Skywalker training holograms that
like Clone War.
Yeah, from the Clone War era and everything. We even get to hear him mention things like Ventress, which is really cool because she was one of the Night Sisters. We get to mentions Count Dooku and all that. I love what they're doing with that. That was super cool.
And didn't she actually end up fighting all those people eventually?
Yeah.
Down the line? So
yeah, well,
that's funny.
And she shows that
nod.
Yeah, and she shows that she really values these holograms that she has. And now, ever since her trip to the world between worlds and everything, she has a very different perspective now on her relationship with him, and she doesn't...
He was a good master.
Yeah, she says that he was a good master, which was super cool. But anyway, as they're doing this, they realize that the whales are slowing down, and they realize they must be getting to their destination and stuff. Huyang's kind of freaking out because he's not certain they're going to the right place. But they find out before long that, they are indeed in the right place, because the enemy have set out a whole space minefield. Space minefield for them, with a bunch of mines that really remind me of the training remotes.
Yeah, because they're hone in on them and
they've
they've
got the different lasers. They were like big giant versions of the training remotes, like Luke used in A New Hope and everything. So anyway, they have to exit the whale's mouth. They are trying to navigate through this minefield. The Purgle take off because they're like, screw this.
He's like, oh, they're protecting us, giving us cover.
They're shielding us, and then they take off.
Like, oh, why'd you say that?
Yeah, so
that's pretty cute.
They managed to get through there, but then before long, Thrawn's forces show up and start pursuing them. this pretty much lets Ahsoka know that, yeah, we've found our bad guy.
We're in the right spot.
Yeah, exactly. So they decide that the best way to maneuver this is she pulls a little Han Solo trick. Just like hiding inside of an asteroid, and everything. That's no cave. They end up attaching themselves to some debris of the dead
ring.
whale. Yeah, the ring around the planet is basically a bunch of Purgle bones and remains and
the
stuff.
graveyard.
It's a graveyard, yeah, exactly. So they hide in there, shut everything down so that they can't be tracked. This works for a little while, but this causes Thrawn to take a little bit more of a calculated approach. And he calls in the Great Mothers and calls upon them to use their powers to pinpoint Ahsoka's location, which it was pretty cool, and it raised some interesting questions about why they couldn't have done that at other times with things. But
with Ezra, yeah,
who knows? Who knows? But anyway, Huyang says, "Okay, I'm going to try to reach out and see if I can find Sabine, because there's no point in us leaving this whale graveyard until we know where we're going anyway."
Right.
But he can't get any readings.
Nope.
So Ahsoka decides that she is going to reach out through the Force and try to reach out to Sabine, because they do have a connection there. Meanwhile, while she's doing this, Sabine and Ezra are seen on the plains of Peridia, traveling along with the Nodi creatures in like a herd, the ones that we met, the little turtley guys we met in the last episode. Are you feeling like you're liking them a little more now?
I am. They're growing on me.
Okay. Well, we find out that Ezra's basically been caught up to speed now by Sabine on all the things that happened with like Return of the Jedi and the Emperor supposedly being dead. I like how she says supposedly, because we know where that goes. But the one thing that Sabine still has not done is tell him about the recent events that led her to finding him.
It's a long story to get into.
Oh my God. You're killing me, Sabine.
It's too much.
Yeah, it's ridiculous is what
Just
it is.
fucking spit it out.
I know, I don't get it. Why? Anyway, we'll get into that later.
Save it.
Yeah, exactly. So while they're chatting, though, Sabine feels Ahsoka reaching out to her through the Force, but the whole thing's like really confusing for her because she thinks Ahsoka's dead. So she can't understand what this is that's calling out.
She feels like it's Ahsoka, but it's not making sense to her.
Right. Unfortunately, Ahsoka doing that causes the Great Mothers to be able to basically intercept this disturbance in the Force and locate Ahsoka themselves. And they're able to pinpoint where she is, and so Thrawn starts an attack and eventually flushes Ahsoka out. But at this point, Ahsoka knows where Sabine is.
We know where we're going.
Yeah, exactly. And so she and Huyang make a beeline towards the planet to reach Sabine and Ezra, who at this point are now encountering the Dark Jedis, none other than Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati. Those two have teamed up with local bandits. We saw that at the very end of the last episode where they found those Japanese-looking bandits and stuff. They've teamed up together, and they're going to start attacking the Nodi herd. Now, part of the problem with that is the Nodi are a very peaceful species, and they don't have any real weapons. They're only armed with slingshots and rocks.
Which I wonder if Ezra showed him how to do anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I forgot. He was like Mr. Slingshot, wasn't he? Oh, that's a good point. Well, that's what I said. That's what I told you in the last episode. I'm like, oh, this is totally the kind of creatures that Ezra would hook up with. Yeah. But, so since they're not a warring species, this leaves Sabine and Ezra to handle most of the battle themselves. Right. Sabine attempts to give Ezra his lightsaber back.
Yeah, it's yours. Here, take it.
But he doesn't want it. He says he doesn't need it. He's learned how to use the Force without it because he's been without it for all these years. And so he's learned how to use the living Force as a weapon. And we get to see his new skills, which are more like a form of martial arts. It's like more of a hand-to-hand combat style. and which was different. And Sabine, of course, sticks to she's got her 2 blasters, and then she pulls out the lightsaber eventually.
Need a little more than that.
Yeah, exactly.
Cute.
Well, meanwhile, while this is getting ready to start and these bandits are going to attack, Baylan Skoll, however, announces that he is not going to be joining in the battle. He lets Shin Hati know that it's their time to part, and she has certain ambitions, I think he says. It's like ambitions and drives within her that are taking her on a different path than the one he is destined to take. She seems kind of, to me, she seems simultaneously like not happy about it.
Right.
Like, and sort of shocked. And at the same time, sort of like, oh, okay, like now I get to be cut loose and I get to do my thing, you know, because she's so eager to attack, you know, kind of like Odysseus's son in the Odyssey, you know. It's like, okay,
he's like,
now,
wait for the word, wait for
right.
Okay, now, go.
Yeah, exactly. It reminds me, you know, again, a lot of their characters in particular are definitely derivative of Greek mythology and stuff. But he warns her that being the way she is, so quick and eager to attack and to be in battle, can be her undoing. He tries to give her a last bit of sage advice and everything, but she ends up taking off. Listen. She's got a lot of growing to do. The little we know about her, we can see that this is a character that's got a lot of growth yet ahead of her. Anyway, so she ends up joining the bandits in the attack on the Noti. And we get to see some pretty cool battle scenes, I think, between her, Sabine, and Ezra. I really enjoyed like the way it was going back and forth with Sabine having the saber, Ezra using the living force moves and all that stuff. And I thought that was cool.
I thought it was enjoyable too. Just the one point where she's like wailing all over the place. But again, I think that's kind of what Baylan was talking about.
Yep, exactly.
Like, calm down.
Exactly.
Stop going at it full force because you're going to lose. And that's exactly what she went and did. So.
Yep, she did. She did exactly what he just said to her not to do. And it shows why he had to cut her loose, you know. But anyway, while that's going on, Hu Yang ends up literally dropping off Ahsoka.
We don't have to land.
Yeah, we don't have to land. I could just slide on out there. He drops her off just in time to be intercepted by Baylan Skoll. So he's surprised to see her, but he doesn't.
It's not bad surprise.
Yeah, he doesn't hesitate to say like, "Oh, I'm doesn't say I'm happy to see you," but you could tell that he's sort of like happy that she survived.
Right.
And again, this is just more things hinting at that it's like this character, what he's out to do is not like your typical dark Jedi thing. He's not looking to kill Jedis. Well, at least not in this way. We'll see. We'll see what that actually is going to amount to, but we'll get into that when we get to the theories. Anyway, Ahsoka and Baylan have a fairly brief duel on a hilltop before Hu Yang shows up just in time to start shooting lasers and causing a smokescreen, and it enables Ahsoka to get away and join her friends in the battle. However, Baylan doesn't follow her.
It kind of like looks up in the distance like he's
being called.
Or feeling something.
He's literally, I think, being called away to like, I have this other destiny. This is not my destiny to be part of this battle.
Right.
So instead he goes off to whatever. That is. Yeah. Shin Hati ends up thinking at one point that she's got the upper hand when a couple of Thrawn's troop carriers show up with a bunch of these creepy night trooper, undead trooper guys. Yeah, whatever they are. It's not looking really good for our heroes there, but just in time, Ahsoka shows up and jumps in to start handing Shin her own ass. And I loved that part. I thought that was great.
Troopers go everywhere. It was awesome.
Yeah, it became really apparent that it's like, Shin, okay, maybe you can hold your own against Sabine, and you were putting up a fairly good fight there at times against Ezra, but you are no match for somebody like Ahsoka Tano. Yep. Like you just, no, not going to happen. this is then exacerbated by the fact that Admiral Thrawn has decided that he's going to withdraw all the troops.
Yeah.
He just, all of a sudden, he tells Morgan Elsbeth, like, let's withdraw all the troops and everything.
Yep, we distracted them long enough to get what we needed done. Bring
Right.
them on in.
Right. Plus, he also, Thrawn also is the kind of person that knows how to back things up when something unexpected happened. And in this case, it was the exit of Balin.
Mm-hmm. He's like, where's Balin?
Yeah, he's like, okay, since he's decided to retreat from the battle, we're going to withdraw our troops, return them to base. Elsbeth is completely confused, and just like she's been doing the last couple episodes, is, questioning Thrawn, like, I don't understand.
We just reunited them. What are you doing?
Right. But he explains that while it looks like they might have lost the fight, in fact, they've gained the upper hand because by distracting the heroes long enough, they've been able to get his Star Destroyer fully loaded up with these whatever zombie troopers or whatever it is. They haven't completely made that clear just yet. And make ready for their departure from the planet and the galaxy and head back to their proper galaxies so that they can follow the course that they want to take, which is bringing back the Empire or whatever, Imperial rule.
He is heir to the Empire.
He is the heir to the Empire. Yeah, exactly. So, once again, he's showing that he's always, and he even said it earlier, he's one step ahead.
He always is.
He always is.
Always.
That's what makes him so amazing, begrudgingly amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway, now that he's withdrawn all these forces, Shin realizes that she is completely alone. With Thrawn's forces are not, having her back, and her master
gone.
has abandoned her, essentially. And in that moment, Ahsoka offers Shin, a chance to surrender her weapon.
And she can help her.
And says, allow me to help you and everything, because Ahsoka knows what this is like. Ahsoka's been there.
Mm-hmm.
She's been Shin. She's like, I know what it's like to have my master basically betray me, and leave me, and I know what it's like to have gone off on my own, and I know what it's like to she definitely knows what it's like to suddenly have all the troops that she thought had her back suddenly not.
Yep.
They should talk about somebody that lived through the Order 66 incident, So Ahsoka is wise enough to recognize this and everything, but Shin seems completely confused and baffled and unsettled by this, and before long she just turns and runs her ass away. And Ahsoka lets her go, which I think is important.
Yes,
I think that was telling. I think it's, and I hope that Shin knows that too, because Shin has to kind of be like, Shin has to realize that, like, they could have taken me, they could have captured me, they could have killed me, they could have done, but they let me go. So I think that's going to be an important thing in the long run.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more Shin eventually.
So anyway, the three heroes are reunited. We get to see a full reunion now between Sabine, Ezra, and Ahsoka. And they feel that they're happy for the moment. They've won the day. With Ezra not only excited to see Ahsoka again, but the fact that he gets to go home.
Famous last words.
So he thinks, And we see him getting to check on his Noti friends and everything. I'm sure he's going to be bummed to leave them behind.
Who says they're going to be staying behind?
Yeah, who knows? We'll see. But that pretty much is
one
it.
At least stows away.
Yeah. I'm going to take a Noti along just for
the Noti.
Yeah. But that is it for the recap. Probably still too long, but, whatever.
You cut out a lot.
I cut out as much as I could.
You did very good.
Yeah, so what I do want to talk about now is the highlights and the lowlights.
Okay.
Let's get into that. All right, so first of all, with highlights, just going in order here. Hera showing her backbone, standing up to that jerky senator.
It's like, no, I disobeyed you.
Yeah, exactly. I love the fact that she stood up for herself like that. I love the fact that Chopper started getting all sassy because this guy clearly shows disrespect towards droids.
He apparently hates them, but Chopper, oof.
Yeah,
That's some choice words.
Yeah, Chopper was like, I loved that. And I love that Carson Teva was like, whoa. Like, he knew
down,
enough.
boy, down.
He knew enough about Chopper to be like, oh, boy. You know, like, I better just calm him down.
And I want more Chopper.
And again, one thing, I guess it makes sense, but it's infuriating. And I can't decide if it's just, like, intentionally infuriating or if it's, you know, maybe it's kind of bad writing. I don't know. This could be both highlight and low light, I guess. But
okay.
I get that they're making this senator guy, you know, out to be the real heel, you know, whether he's an actual bad guy or just a jerk. I think we've seen this, and we saw some of this in the other shows as well. We saw some of this with some of the attitude of the senators in Obi-Wan Kenobi and even in Mandalorian and stuff like that, but especially with this New Republic, I just find it a little hard to believe that they're so quickly dismissive. It hasn't been that long since the Empire was ruling, okay? It's not like, well, it was 50 years ago. It's only been several years.
Like 9 years?
Something like that. Yeah, something like that. It's only been several years, and they've already seen enough like little uprisings and incidents like Carson Teva brings up about what happened in season 3 of Mandalorian when he was
those are isolated incidents.
Yeah, but still, my point is that there's enough stuff going on. I mean, look at even what happened. Did they report? They had to have reported even at the beginning of this season with Ahsoka when they went to that factory and found out that it was a whole bunch of people that were still loyal to the Empire and all that stuff. There's still enough of that the idea, it's one thing to be erring on the side of being hopeful. It's even one thing to be somewhat skeptical. It's another thing to be completely dismissive and just be like, oh, that is just the most far-fetched thing I've ever heard. It's like, oh, come on, man. Like, I'm sorry. I don't know.
Well, doesn't that seem to be the whole trend of the whole Star Wars universe is the Senate's always been dismissive and a problem to deal with. That's why we had all these rebels.
Yeah, I mean, you go back to the prequels and stuff, and it was the Senate. I mean, yeah, they've always been a mess, and they've always been dismissive of important things. And yeah, I don't know. I guess they're
never going to learn.
They're not, and I know people are going to go, well, that's typical, and that's like what we deal with in real life. And I'm like, yeah, I suppose it is, but it just seems like they make it a little too obvious sometimes.
It's a trope. We got to stick with it.
Yeah, they like their tropes, that's for sure. But anyway, another positive highlight, I loved the mention of and the involvement of Princess Leia.
Yes. That was awesome. I did not expect to see C-3PO.
No, I was...
At all. I was like, oh, what?
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty cool to see C-3PO there. Good old Anthony
arguing with him. I was like, what do you mean my name?
Yeah, exactly.
You don't mean my name. I am C-3PO.
Yeah.
What are you doing here?
And I love the fact that he has just a little bit of awareness now of like, hey man, do you know who I am? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm C-3PO. Like, I'm a big part of why, like, we all still exist.
Exactly. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Another highlight that I really liked was I liked the Anakin hologram flashback thing. I love the fact that they're going to continue doing that because there was a lot of talk after the last episode where people were saying like, man, I would love to see more of this Anakin stuff. Like, this is really redeeming so much about the character, and it's tying in the whole animated universe to the live action. It's making it, I know some people, like I saw that our friend Alexander mentioned that he was like, I don't want them to keep doing all like live action stuff. Like, I don't want them to make it seem like the animated series was not important or like shouldn't be taken as seriously. Like, it can only be taken seriously if it's live action. I get that, but I also feel like at the same time, them doing this, at least the amount that they're doing. I don't necessarily want them to redo the Clone Wars in live action, but I like the fact that adding these things in there, it's legitimizing it for all those people that are like, oh, I don't care about the animated series. That's not real Star Wars. It's like, nope.
It is.
It sure is, and it really is now, especially where things are now. So I like the way they've been using Anakin here and kind of repairing a lot of the problems with that and tying everything together. I thought it was great. And I really liked how, like we mentioned earlier, how Ahsoka is showing a change in herself with her attitude towards Anakin and her past.
Yes.
So I think
she's coming to peace with it all.
Exactly. I think it's great. Another highlight would be, for me, Ezra using the Force the way he's doing. Now, I've seen just in the last 24 hours, I've seen a lot of people online saying they did not dig it at all.
Really?
Yeah, I saw a lot of people that were saying, oh, man, what a bummer. I wanted to see Ezra using his lightsaber and this whole thing where he's just using his hands. Like, I don't know, some people felt it was hokey. Some people felt like it was just a letdown or a cop-out. I think it made perfect sense. I mean,
he's grown.
He's grown, and he's been on this other planet without a lightsaber. I mean, there probably are no kyber crystals around for him to make a new lightsaber and everything. So he had to keep training. He had to keep growing. He had to keep his connection to the Force strong.
And it sounds like his little piece that he has is all like tags from the stormtrooper guys.
Yeah.
So clearly he's been battling. They have found him throughout time.
Right.
And he's battled them, probably building up his force.
Right, exactly. Because we get the impression that Thrawn has been trying to find Ezra and just has not been able to track him down. And so Ezra's probably had to kick a lot of ass over the years to keep himself hidden and safe.
Right.
So I loved it. I love martial arts. I love hand-to-hand combat stuff. I mean, we've seen enough lightsabers in our lifetime, and we're going to see way more lightsabers, believe me. So I loved it. I thought it added a new element to the battle. I'm all in on that. So that for me was a big highlight. I got a big smile on my face when I saw the way he was. And when Shin was trying to hit him with the lightsaber and he just stopped it with his hands,
and it,
I was
distorted and everything.
I was like,
Did you see
oh,
that?
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. Like, I want to see more stuff like that. I love the way they're expanding things now. You know, it's not just the same old Star Wars. Some people want things to stay the same old Star Wars. I get that. I respect it. I just don't agree with it.
Speaking of Ezra
Yeah.
and Sabine, I'm enjoying seeing their camaraderie come back to basically where it was before, where they're brother and sister bickering back and forth. She's like, take it. It's your lightsaber. Take it. He's like, no, I don't need it.
Yeah.
So
I think this actor, both actors that they've got playing these characters are doing a great job of bringing those characters to life.
Yeah, when she told him that Ahsoka took her on, he's like, what? Why?
Yeah.
It was so Ezra. I was like, that's perfect.
That was so Ezra to be, really? Why? And he was like, oh, no, I mean, cool.
Totally.
Yeah, that's cool.
I mean,
I remember you kind of doing stuff like that. Like
when I first started too.
Right,
okay,
cool, all right.
I guess.
That was, that was exactly them. And it just felt good. Like, I'm like, okay, they're doing these characters right.
Yes.
Speaking of characters, like I asked you earlier, I said about how you felt about the Noti now, because on the last episode you were like, I
can take them, leave them. But this episode, they were so cute. I love them so much.
I had a feeling.
They're little badasses.
Yeah.
Just little guys. They're like me. They're little guys that want to get in on the action, and they're not afraid from a fight. They're not going to back down from it.
Right.
But they ain't gonna really do anything to them. It's not really gonna do any damage. But they're sure gonna try.
They might throw a rock or two, right? And then go hide.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I love the way Ezra was like, stay in there. He kept going, they go going up.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, stay put this. Just close the door.
Yeah.
And the Howler in there hiding with them.
I thought that was really cute.
After they were so scared of them before, now they're in there huddled together. That was adorable. I loved every second of that.
Yeah, I did think that was pretty cute. That before the Howler was just like wanting to like eat them and stuff, and now the Howler and the Noti guys are just like hanging out, like, oh, we better hide in here. Yeah, that was pretty cute.
So adorable.
Yeah,
so, I loved them in this episode.
Yeah, I agree. Lastly, in terms of highlights that I want to point out, I would just say Thrawn, for me, was a big highlight. Now, I know he made his big debut, live action debut in the last episode and everything, but I feel like that didn't really
do him justice.
No.
He really showed who Thrawn is in this episode.
Yes.
All his cunning and tactical skills, and I was like, oh, you son of a...
Yeah.
I didn't even see that coming. Of course you did that.
Yeah, he's so clever in the way, and I like I said earlier, I love the fact that Thrawn is the guy that it's like chess. He'll sit there and play chess. You'll sit there and think like, oh man,
I got him.
You can't, if you watch somebody that's really good at playing chess, sometimes, they give up their queen. And you're going, oh, dude, you just surrendered your queen. Like you're gonna lose. And it's like, nope. He's thinking like all these steps ahead of how it's like, I may have lost that move, but I will win the game.
Right.
And that's the way he does it. And he did that a lot on Rebels. Yes. There was a lot of times where they were all, the Empire were all like, pulling their hair out, like, oh no, we just lost this ship and we lost this battle and oh my gosh. And Thrawn was just like, no, that's okay. It's all right because that happened, but we gained
We're
this.
We're going to win the war.
And so, yeah, exactly. They won the battle. We'll win the war.
And that happens a lot in the books that I'm reading. He's constantly having to go explain himself
Yep.
to the counselor or whatever because they're like, dude, how could you possibly have let this happen? He's like, trust me, it will all work out.
And it does.
And it always does. You should freaking listen to him. He's a genius.
Yeah, so I really like that we're getting to see real Thrawn here now. It's awesome. I'm gonna bounce off of this right into the lowlights, okay?
Okay.
And I want to bring up something speaking of that. So on the opposite end, a character that I guess it makes sense, but I'm kind of bummed that they're doing this with her is Morgan Elsbeth.
Right?
Like, Morgan Elsbeth came off to me initially like she was just really badass. She was
the badass, kick-ass woman.
And they've kind of made her now seem like how so many of those other Imperial officers were around Thrawn. They make her seem kind of sheepish and like she just has she has no tactical skills whatsoever. I brought it up in the last episode when I said like how she just seemed like even shocked that like Thrawn would be, taken aback that she had hired 2 Jedis to be her mercenaries. Oh, well, these are just mercenaries. And he's like, no, they're Jedis. That's General Baylan Skull. Like, do you not do any research on the people you hire here? Lady, come on.
Take them at their word.
Right, and just, and just everything. And then, like, any kind of, like, badass, like, empoweredness she had before has just been kind of, like, knocked down into the dirt because he's like, oh, well, yeah, So first off, he starts off in this episode being like, well, so, okay, I thought you killed us. I thought you said Ahsoka was dead. She's here.
Yep.
And, I thought you said that Baylan Skull was, like, totally in your employ and was, like, going to be faithful and do all this stuff. Well, he just left. Yep. And everything, like, just over and over, she's just showing herself. And even just the way they have her reacting. And I'm not putting down Diana for her acting.
No,
I think she's acting
awesome,
great, but it's just the way they're
the character,
the way they're writing it.
I wanted to be a badass again.
She just seems kind of like lost. I don't know. Like she doesn't seem stronger. I feel like she should be stronger. You think of, I can't think of her name now, but the one character, that one Imperial character, the female one in Rebels.
Yes.
And how she was
awful, but she
was just so, even when she was down and out, she just was like, she stood her ground and she was just iron-fisted, and she died that way. Remember, she basically was like, I'm just gonna, you know what? I'd rather die, than
gonna die on this hill,
than cower. And I kind of thought maybe Diana portrayal would, because of the way she is, would exemplify that more, but they're writing her in a different direction. And I'm really hoping maybe they're going to reverse that. Like maybe she will step up. I thought maybe we'd get to see her be more of a Night Sister.
Right. Instead of just kind of standing around listening to what Thrawn has to say. I was like, I want to see her do the witchy stuff.
Right, exactly.
Go fuck shit up.
Right, that's even more to the point, is like we've got like the Great Mothers. And it was like, oh, okay, great, she's going to join with them and she's not. She's just still just kind of there. They're just kind of have her play, like being there. And that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm really hopeful that maybe they've got some plans there for that and something will change. Another character that, speaking of the way they're writing a character on the show, and everybody that's been watching and listening to us talk is going to know who I'm going to talk about. It's Sabine. Like,
why
are they playing her so
aloof?
Like, yeah, just like so overly naive and so like, I mean, why do you keep holding information back, Sabine? Why? Other than because it furthers the stupid tropes that they write for these shows. Like, why hold that information back? What would be the reason for her to not tell Ezra more, especially knowing that information is power? You know, I don't understand.
Yeah, because to her now, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because she knows they're basically stranded there. They're together now. What does the other stuff even matter? Because she thinks Ahsoka's dead.
Yeah. Maybe.
So maybe she's just like ready to just let it all go and just be in the moment, be there. This is their new life.
I guess, but then like what was the point? Then what was even the point of her going there to find Ezra? Just to be like, oh, I found Ezra.
Just to find Ezra, just to be with him. That's all she wanted.
I guess. But that seems weird to me. And especially weird if there's not that there has to be, but I could even understand if it was a thing where it's like, because I'm in love with him, stupid, you know. But she's not. They're not playing that angle at all. They're supposed to be more like adopted brother's sister kind of thing or something. But that's
all the family that she has.
I suppose.
It's made it clear. That's literally all she has left.
Well, then I guess my point is maybe they should make that more clearly stated. You know, like maybe they should make that more clearly stated. Maybe that should be something that she says where it's like, you know, I needed to do this because I feel like he's the only family I have left and everything. And I think that, playing devil's advocate, and I hopefully I'm right, I think that the reason they wrote her to be so unwilling to open up and talk about things is that I think she feels ashamed. I think she feels ashamed that she's like, I kind of got Ahsoka killed, and then I went totally against her.
Yeah, I screwed the entire universe.
Wishes, and I sort of screwed the entire universe by going and doing what I did. She feels that she sort of sold out to Thrawn and them by doing that just so she could be with Ezra.
Like, how did you do that? She's like, it's a long story.
But I mean, I don't know. That just seems so juvenile to me. And that's even one of the things that maybe I could have seen older, or I should say younger Sabine doing. But at this point, shouldn't she be a little bit more further along as a person? I don't know. That's just, I keep hoping, because it's a great character and the show's great overall so far, I keep hoping that they'll remedy that. There's just so many of these things. They're things that could be remedied with just a little teeny bit of dialogue. Just a little bit of dialogue, cleverly written and placed at the right time, that sort of helps like clear
Explain
that up.
It.
Right, yeah, so that it just is like, okay, well, I get it now.
Well, maybe that's what they tried to do in last episode when she was like, can we just enjoy this?
Yeah, that felt weak to me. When they put it across the way they did then, and then especially in this episode, it feels to me like the writers are going, well, we can't have her explain things because then that would change where we want it to go, you know, with this typical fucking trope, you know what I mean? So we're just going to have her be like, I don't want to talk about it. It's like, oh, come on, don't do that to her.
Like not tweens anymore. Here.
Right, exactly. She's not a tween. She's not a 16-year-old, angsty Mandalorian girl anymore. Come on, like she should be beyond that. And I just, again, it's not a fault of the overall character. It's certainly not a fault of the actors. It's a fault, in my opinion, of the writers who choose to do these cliched tropes with their writing, where I'm like, you could do this in a different. Even if her whole thing is like, I don't really want to talk about it, or I'm ashamed to talk about it. There's ways they could write it where she does that without spilling the beans, you know what I mean? Where she could kind of explain a little more and show a little bit more frustration, instead of her just kind of like looking off to the distance, being like, I don't want to talk about it. It's like, oh, come on. That's the best you got, really? So anyway, that's just my thing. And then we already talked about the lowlights is I don't need, I guess, to really go on about it, but with Senator, what's his name? Senator Butthole, I really hope that, I wouldn't say this is a lowlight because we haven't seen it yet, but I really hope that it isn't just a red herring. I really hope that there is some...
They're going to out him at some point?
Yeah, that there is some reason why he is being so defiant and such a jerk about everything. I hope that it's not just like another, like, oh, misdirection. It's like, oh, come on, you've done enough of that sort of thing in the past. Like, I've had enough of Disney Plus's misdirection on characters like that. So, we'll see. But anyway, we're running out of time. Let's get into theories. So the main theory that's been like going around involves some information that's gotten out there. Somebody went back and found a scene from a past episode where they zeroed in on Baylan Skoll's, it's like his wristband thing, right? Mm-hmm. And written in another language on there, on a space Star Wars language on there that people can actually translate, which is mind-blowing. But then again, there's people
beyond us.
Well, then there's people out there that know how to speak fluent Klingon. So, it doesn't surprise me. We're all geeks, right? But anyway, when they translated it, they found out that it was the names of like Luke Skywalker and Leia and Han and Chewie and Ben Kenobi and all that stuff. Now, there's a lot of people that are going, well, they might have just threw that in there as like a fun little Easter egg. Or could it be something to do with what his mission is? Yeah,
to go back and fix the weak Jedi.
It could be.
In his mind.
Or to change people. Maybe he views what happened with all these characters, because we talked about it before, but I do think that there's a chance that he wants to go to the world between worlds, and he wants to go back and change history.
Right wrongs.
His perceived wrongs. Yeah, he wants to go back and change history to bring what he probably deems to be a proper balance to the Force.
Correct.
And everything. So that's interesting. And I really hope we'd get more answers in this episode, but we really didn't.
No, they are keeping tight-lipped on his whole agenda here and who he's beckoning him, and like, they better give us something next episode or we're gonna riot.
Oh yeah, they really. I know it's gonna be a cliffhanger, but boy, I hope it's not too much of a cliffhanger, because that's just gonna be, that's just going to be grating. Another thing is just thinking of our theories and just talking about what do you think the future holds for Shin Hati?
I think we're going to see a lot more of her in the future, whether it be the movie or the new Ahsoka, second season of Ahsoka, or even Mandalorian that's coming out too. And I think it was, like you said, Ahsoka, it was a little bit of a tale that maybe she will turn to the white side.
I don't know.
With her. Eventually down the line, because she wears all white. She rides a freaking white howler thing. Yeah. Everything seems to point to white for her.
Well, maybe.
She got white hair.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure. I can't see it yet.
I know. I keep kind of vacillating between. It's like she's the dark, because she's so Anakin.
Right.
Or is she going to end up turning to the right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Side, I don't know.
Because he told her, Balin Skull told her to, like, go take your place with the Empire.
Right.
You know, basically indicating, like, you're going to go be a Dark Jedi. You're going to go be, you know, on the side of them. Mm-hmm. And...
I mean, but just like Anakin and Ezra and all of them, they've all teetered on the dark side of it. They had to face that part of it to find them.
That's very true. That's very true.
So maybe she's got to go take that place to see how awful it is.
Yeah.
She's like, you know what? I think I'm going to go to this side now.
Yeah. Yeah, you might be right. Okay.
We'll see. I don't know. I can't make up my mind about this one.
Yeah, I can't either. And lastly, on a more of, I guess, kind of a fun note and everything in terms of theories, like, do you think we're going to see more before, at least in this last episode, do you think there's a chance we're going to see more familiar faces?
I hope we see Zeb.
Yeah, I know.
They made a comment about him training forces. So what I'm hoping maybe is Thrawn makes it back.
Right.
And they're like, oh, shit. And they start building up their forces, and we get to see Zeb for a hot second gathering his forces up. Just a teensy little peek at him is all I want.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be cool.
Just to close it out.
It's not fair that they've given us everybody, and we saw Zeb. I know we saw him in Mandalorian.
But I want him again because I love Zeb.
Yeah, exactly. I think we should at least get a little...
And him and Chopper bicker back and forth. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, and I mean, and there's a lot of talk, too, because, you know, keep in mind that another character who is very much out there, you know, I mean, because we saw him in Mandalorian, and he's interacted directly with Ahsoka, is Luke Skywalker.
This is true.
So how and when and if Luke might factor into this, boy, I mean, how exciting would that be? Can you imagine seeing Luke Skywalker interacting with the Rebels characters? Holy shit.
That'd be awesome.
That would be amazing. Like, I love the way they're crossing all of this over now. I love the way this is all tying in. I love the fact that they brought up that we have Carson Teva there, and that he brought up the events on Mandalore that happened in Season 3 of Mandalorian. I love that it's keeping it all together, tied together, so that nothing feels irrelevant, because in the past, a lot of people viewed, even we did, you know, to a point, we felt that things like Clone Wars and Bad Batch and Rebels and other things like, they're not relevant. It's all relevant. It's all going to tie together, and it's not going to feel like, oh, well, Clone Wars is that animated thing that wasn't really that important. It's super important.
Yeah, it's everything right now.
and if now we're going to have Filoni not only continuing with the shows, but maybe doing movies, actual theatrical things, that I think the movies is where we're going to get everything tied in together. That's when you're going to probably get all of these characters acting together and stuff like that. Because even again, at the same time, don't forget, in the timeline here, because this is pre-sequels, so Han Solo is still out there. Lando Calrissian is still out there. Chewbacca's still out there. Mandalorian is out there. You know what I mean? Like, Grogu's out there. Like, all of these characters are out there. Cad Bane is out there. There's so many characters now that they can put into this to take these stories and these new directions. It's really freaking exciting. I think it's really exciting, and I haven't been this excited for Star Wars probably at least since they first announced Mandalorian, and probably since even like when they first announced and came out with like The Force Awakens and stuff. That was probably the last time I was like this excited. And even then with Force Awakens, I was like, I'm a little tentative about what they're going to do with this. And I liked Force Awakens quite a bit. But like this, just everything they're doing, Filoni, and I am loving Ahsoka. I am loving this series. I'm like, this is what I want from Star Wars. I have my little complaints about nitpicky things like I was saying about Sabine and blah, blah, blah. But really, that's just
being nitpicky.
That's just geeky nitpicking.
I do want to say, when Ahsoka arrived, and they came out of the minefield, and those ships started coming out of the circle of guy, that the music that played, that was Star Wars.
Right.
I was in it.
Yeah.
That was old Star Wars. That was awesome.
Yeah, I agree. The music is so important, man. And I generally like the music, especially for Ahsoka. The music in Ahsoka has been really good. Mm-hmm. You know, I like music in the other series too, but they kind of have their own character to it. This one, like I said, this is feeling more like epic Star Wars. And the look of it, the feel, the pacing of it, the music, it's all coming together. And then with all these characters possibly being there for Filoni to play with, you know what I mean? Like, he's got all his action figures there, man. Like, they're all there just about. Mm-hmm. That's super cool. You know, because you've even got old characters like Anakin Skywalker and stuff that he can do things with now because of World Between Worlds and all that kind of stuff. Like, he's got it all there to play with. It's like, oh man, that's really exciting. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to see where it goes. And we've got one more episode that we will be back with next week. It'll be the last one. So yeah, looking forward to that. And again, thanks everybody for listening to us. Let us know your thoughts on all the topics we brought up here. And yeah, we'll see you soon.
Bye guys.
Take care. Don't forget to subscribe and like all that stuff.
Yes.
We'll see you soon.